10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and our running back coach didn't take the pass. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We're live, local, and ready to get things rolling right here on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC. We're ready to get it rolling. We want to invite you to get in on the conversation at 205-342-9904. That's 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. It is open for business, open for your call. Also, you can join the live stream at Alabama Sports and the Martin Houston Show. Comment, react, ask your questions, just interact there with whatever is on your mind. Maybe even bring up a topic that we don't have on this wild card Wednesday. We'd love to have your interaction. Also, at the conclusion of the program, we'll have our airways. We'll go another segment or so on the Martin Houston Show OT overtime. So if you're not following Alabama sports in the Martin Houston Show, you'll miss that portion of the programming. As well as that's also where we do special shows and things. Once the football season rolls around, we will have more content available there on Alabama sports, especially football and basketball season. So appreciate you being a part of the program. Remember that this is a day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. So great opportunity for you to get involved and join us in the conversation. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir?
X, doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning to all our listeners and chatters and viewers. So welcome in. It's a wild card Wednesday. Would you rather Wednesday? We'll kind of toss it up. A couple things that I have on on the docket for us to look at. Of course, has to do with I did a little fill in the blank. X. I don't know if you saw the images or the pictures coming out from Milroe, and it just made me think. Milroe will do what this year? So you can call up and complete the statement, fill in the blank. Milroe will, and you finish that thought. I'll get Xavier's completion of that statement. I get Wyatt's completion of that statement as we look into the 2024 season. Also, this is a time for us to kind of just talk and highlight Alabama as a whole. We can look at I had a statistic or had a graphic that came across my timeline. I copied it and reposted it, and it's about Bama and the Heisman Trophy. Okay, there is an amazing statistic about the Heisman Trophy that involves Alabama football, and they're the only one in the last 25 years to do it. Let that sink in. In the last 25 years, they're the only one to accomplish this feat. Alabama, the program at Alabama is the only one. Now, don't tell me, X. Don't tell me why. Do y'all know what it is?
I do, but gotta change it a little bit because of a factor that something that actually took place and it being reinstated.
No, that don't count.
It does now.
Nah.
He got it back.
Huh?
He got it back.
Well, I guess he did. So we'll talk about it. We'll give him credit. It's barely in there. Well, we'll change it to the last 20 years. All right. Also, the buy sell hold conversation. We'll have that as well. I've been saving that, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. But let me get to Pat real quick. Why do you know what we're talking about on the thing from Bama?
So it's the stat that's only applied to Alabama in the last 20 years regarding the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah. So that's it. Yeah, and I think what year was Bush?
Reggie Bush
05.
was 05.
So we're almost at 25. I was thinking he was 2003, but that's when what's his name started his little run out there at USC. So, go ahead.
Is Alabama the only school to have two Heisman winners play with each other?
That's part of it. Well, that's one of the things, but it's a little crazier.
It's even crazier than that. Yeah, not crazier than that. Because I think did Liner win the Heisman?
Yeah.
So
not even that.
the both of those. I mean, they're pretty crazy, and they probably had three guys that could have, Lindell White could have won it as well. I mean, they were stacked. This is a quick sidebar. You guys, Xavier, you're probably old. How old are you, White? I don't want to.
23.
Okay, you were probably not as aware. One of the things I thought about, remember how people have been afraid, Wyatt and X, of having fun in Tuscaloosa and not being able to win?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me the program that had the most fun in the last, publicized fun since 2000. It would probably be USC under Pete Carroll. Everybody, and then when he went to the pros, everybody said he couldn't win in the pros because the players wouldn't be disciplined and he would be having too much fun. And he did it there as well. USC, of course, Miami was known for Miami. That wasn't necessarily did not talk about the program being fun. They were having fun, all right. But he was known as this connected relationship, connected with his players' coach. And they were one of the most dominant programs. If you were to say who's had one of the greatest runs in since 2000, it would be USC and Pete Carroll. And I don't know that it would have come to an end necessarily if he sticks around and stays with it, because he went up to the Seahawks and they kind of had a nice, decent run for that as well. So, and so every time I hear somebody say that, I think about back then, and then I think about today's culture. It may be as important to have fun, relationship, and discipline as it has been at any point to keep these guys connected, because you want to win, but you also have to get these guys, I think, more than just winning now. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's reality. All right. Things aren't so chipper over in Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been talking about they've passed us, X. Let's see what's going on. Pat, you're in. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, there ain't nothing runs like a deer.
Mhm.
And hey, we completed a trifecta, Martin, in having a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver win the Heisman. But we have not had a defensive lineman to win the Heisman. I want to forget about a man called Sue, and that Justice Terry might be that guy.
Oh wow, you're already picking Justin Terry to be a Heisman Trophy winner. What if he goes
I'm
to
just
Georgia?
saying. I'm just
Did he
saying.
commit to
You
Alabama?
want to put things out there? I'm saying you're putting things out there. You're gonna put really big things out there. That hey, and the thing about it is, oh my goodness, Freddie Roach would become a superstar. Oh Lord.
That's a kind of a
Hey,
bold prediction.
we talk bad about for Freddie Roach to go from goat to hero. Oh, good Lord.
Hex, I'll let you respond to Pat. I think Pat, I know you don't. I know you're even putting the wrong kind of liquid in your cup. Have you? You started off way out there this morning, man.
Got up this morning and had one of them Sesame cigarettes. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know what you've been doing at home, Pat. X, respond to Pat. I don't know where to go with that one.
I don't think there's ever been a defensive lineman to win the Heisman, so that would definitely be something nobody's ever done. So,
hey, listen, the Heisman may be for the best player in the country in title. It's for the best stat guy on the best team.
Oh, yeah.
With the most show. The reality is, Ndamukong Suh was the most dominant college football player by far when he was graduating from Nebraska. But you know, and he got in the running. But has there ever been a pure defensive player, just straight defensive player to win it?
Never.
So yeah, so
so Charles Woodson played both ways in college, right?
yes,
because he's the closest you get, I guess.
Yeah, he's the closest you would get.
And he was a punt returner. And he had to do a lot to win
it. And they had to ignore what was going on up in Knoxville. I'm not a Tennessee fan, but if you were to flip those two and put Peyton Manning at Michigan and Woodson at Tennessee, and Woodson did the exact same thing, Peyton Manning wins the Heisman. The Heisman is about getting votes and regions. Tim Tebow should have won too. Yeah. So I mean, Woodson was a great player. I'm not knocking him being a great player, but it was the South. It would be. What do y'all think? We're gonna have to go to break. Pat, do you have something to talk about on this? Hold on. Let's get the break. Let's hold on. Let's get the break. We'll come back on the other side. You listen to the Martin Houston Show. I want to thank you for all that you do to support the show, and want to encourage you to go out and support our sponsors like Alabama One, longer term and lower payments. Drive the one you want to win. Apply online at Alabama One and get 60 days no pay, 1 year free car wash, or 1 year of free oil changes. You can win that. Go check it out. Alabama1.org. Alabama One together.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. The sun's coming up over a very quiet and uneventful drive all across the T-Town region, so let's hope things don't change as we move along for this Wednesday morning drive. Traveling along McFarland from Buell and Coker down to U of A and I-20 beyond. You're moving nicely, no big problems there. 2059 in good shape both ways as well, into and out of the region. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
What's the best position on the wheel? 10 and 2. Townsend Nissan's got the best position for buying a vehicle. $2,000 to $10,000 in discounts now. No other dealer in town can do that. Townsend Nissan.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Hey, Jen, I just stopped in to say hello. Oh my gosh, look how busy it is in here. How did you get all these customers?
Yeah, this month has been a record breaker for us. For a long time, we had decent business coming in from word of mouth, but we weren't really growing. Lately, though, a lot of new folks have been finding us online, and that's made all the difference.
That's terrific. I wish I could figure out how to do that for my shop, but I have no idea where to start.
Just do what I did. It's not as hard as you think. Go to mylocalcustomers.com to see exactly how many searches there are here for businesses like yours.
Okay, then what?
If you see that there are a good number of clients searching in our area, you'll also get some suggestions for the best way to get their attention.
Do you think there are a lot of people searching for my business?
There's only one way to find out. Go to mylocalcustomers.com. It's quick, easy, and free.
Go to mylocalcustomers.com for a free local customer analysis that will show you how many Tuscaloosa customers are searching online for your type of business. It's quick, easy, and free. Visit mylocalcustomers.com. That's mylocalcustomers.com.
Hey, my name is Jared, and this is Matt. And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Maple Pepper Bacon Sandwich is that sweet and savory flavor combo. I love the grilled chicken because of how juicy it is. It has that perfect smoked flavor.
And then the crunch of the pickles and the sweet heat that they bring just ties it all together.
And that crispy sweet bacon, it adds so much flavor.
It ties in amazing with the warm, soft bun. You can really taste the sweetness in every bite.
The maple bun is bringing the fun.
Order the Maple Pepper Bacon Sandwich on the Chick-fil-A app today. Available for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. A chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon and this evening. The high today 99, the low tonight 72. Tomorrow a mix of sun and clouds, a few scattered showers and storms around. The high 95. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 73 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We're having a little Heisman Trophy conversation based on something I had seen and posted, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's get Pat in real quick. Pat, you're on the Alabama One hotline. What else did you have for us?
Yeah, let's go back to your team. That had he not been in trouble with Gene Stallings, that there's not a football player Alabama has ever had in a crimson uniform any better than David Palmer. Had he not been able, or had he been able to get out of his own way, he's the only one that could stop him. And had he not, that no one should have been more the Heisman Trophy. That there's not a player in any football era that I can think of that's any better than what David Palmer was.
Wow. That's high praise. He was a man. He was a beast.
I went to go ahead.
No, you go ahead because I need to wrap up. Move to the next question.
Real quick, that I don't think he came into halftime over whenever that ex-president was watching him with that silver hair up in the skybox over in Little Rock, Arkansas, and when he came into the game, it just totally changed the complexity of that game. And I mean, it was good night Irene for the poor old people hollering, "Sue me, sue me."
David Palmer was special, and yeah, like you said, had some things that prevented him from playing. But I also think Alabama's Heisman Trophy run had a lot to do with Alabama's philosophy, especially in their SID office, Sports Information Department office. We didn't promote individuals. We didn't promote guys. There were several guys that if they were playing in today's era and did what they did, they would have won Heisman trophies back in the day. Alabama just didn't promote guys, and so that's why I think Alabama had such a long time. Sean Alexander is the first Alabama guy I remember them even attempting to promote, and that was a bad swag at it compared to what everybody else does. So, but appreciate that, Pat.
Yeah, have a blessed one, Martin. But I mean, David was amazing.
Absolutely.
Have a good one.
All right, and Pat, we'll talk about A.K. Deere, the running back, a potential flip from Ole Miss on tomorrow. Ole Miss lost 3 recruits the other day, but interesting, impact on what's happening with them over there in Ole Miss. Don't know what that's about, but we'll talk about it on tomorrow. Just real quick, X, the Heisman Trophy, man. Like I said, it's a great award, and many of the people who have won it deserved it. But a lot of times it was truly it's truly an award for the best player on the best team, having the best season type of scenario. But in that case, like I said, I think Woodson, won it, and you can't argue. But if you take that any other time, he probably doesn't win it if you have a season like Peyton Manning was having. So back to that conversation we were talking about. Okay. Let's see. All right. They gave what's his name his trophy back, and he won it. So, and he was electric. He was clearly the best player in the country. And he won it in 2005, and that would be Reggie Bush winning a Heisman. But since that time, what you said was 2005, right?
Right.
So almost 20 years, there have been only 3, and it was more about the last 3 versus how long it's been. The last 3 non-QB winners of the Heisman Trophy was Alabama's first, second, and third Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
Let that sink in. That is no other team since 2005 has produced a non-quarterback to be voted on for the Heisman. And to win the Heisman. And let's see, when was the last time a wide receiver won it? That streak goes back even further. All right.
Tim Brown. Or no, Desmond Howard. So the year I was born.
How old are you?
I'll be 33, and I was 29 when Devontae won it.
So, yeah, let that sink in. In the last 30 plus years, 1 wide receiver has won it. In the last 18 years, 2 Alabama guys, 2 running backs won it. And other than that, everybody else has won the Heisman have been quarterbacks. That is, to me,
even we have one of those.
Yeah, and that's right. And we have a quarterback win as well. That's crazy. We're getting a couple questions over here. Let me see. Let me see what someone said about Hugh Green of the University of Pittsburgh is the only pure defensive player to come close to winning the Heisman in 1980. And that's when the running back George Rogers of South Carolina won that 1980 Heisman. And yeah. What year did Herschel Walker win the Heisman? 81?
82.
82? Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson probably should have won the Heisman every year. But anyway, those two are two of my favorite guys, so I'm probably a little biased. But C.J. Watson said, I forgot. If you want to see a great defensive player, go back and watch Hugh Green. That dude could flat out play. Unbelievable linebacker at Pittsburgh. I forgot that Woodson denied Manning winning the Heisman. That's C.J. Watson. I never supported Woodson winning more than I do right now. C.J. hates the Volunteers at every angle. Jed Cohen saying, this must be about the fun. It was wild in the 80s with Miami and Notre Dame. The Notre Dame game in the South Bend was an epic game. He's talking about them having fun there. I think that was it Catholic versus Convicts? I think. Have y'all ever heard of that game, X, Wyatt?
I have.
I think they called it Catholic versus Convicts. That is so bad. Could you imagine if
That's the game Miami showed up in Army fatigue?
Yeah, but could you imagine what would happen if you were to do that today? Oh my goodness, how much the world has changed. Let me see if there's anything. Oh yeah, Brian Bosworth was a potential guy that got close, and Ndamukong Suh was, to me, he deserved it as well. But anyway, I just wanted to shout out my Alabama Crimson Tide guys for that feat. I mean, that's pretty amazing when you look at that, considering the fact, Wyatt, that Alabama had none, right? Let's think about that for a second. Alabama had 0 Heisman trophies in 2008. So 2008 till now is be 16 years after this season, right? So Alabama has won. 17. Is that correct? Huh?
17 seasons.
Be 17 seasons. So my point is even better. It's been 16 seasons. Alabama has won 1/4 of all the Heisman trophies since they won their first one. That's about the same stat on Saban and his run. Didn't Saban win at one point? If Saban, when he won his 6th national title, he had won half of the national titles from the time he won his first one at Alabama. Literally every other year, Alabama. That's crazy, guys. I don't think, I know we won't. I know we say we realize it, but we don't. We really don't realize how crazy our last 15, 16 years of football has been, X. It's been an unbelievable run. Hey, let's get the break here. We'll be back on the other side. We'll get Philip in. We'll get some thoughts from X. I have to say this before we go to break, since it's a Heisman Trophy. Bam Bam 72 bringing in Bobby Humphrey, got robbed of the Heisman in 86. Once again, I think that's as much about Alabama, it being in the South, number one, being in the South, and not having as many regional votes, because that's how you win the Heisman. It's the number of votes, and you can go back and watch by regions. If somebody has a guy in the region X, they go heavy on that guy.
More likely to lose it.
Versus the guy that's out of their region who doesn't garner as many votes. That's what happened to Tim Tebow. That happened to Bobby. But I also put, like I said, I put some of this on Alabama because we didn't promote Bobby Humphrey. We didn't push Bobby Humphrey. And yeah, neither here nor there. That's the reality. We'll be back on the other side to keep the conversation rolling. It's been a fun morning. A little different topic than I had intended to discuss, but that tends to happen on this show. We'll keep it rolling right here and encourage you to join us as we come back on the other side to keep the conversation going.
Hey, Frank, looks like business is booming. What are all those tabs you have open on your computer?
Oh, hey. Well, this one is for my SEO company. This one is for my website company. This one is for my CRM. This is for invoicing and estimates. This one does email. And this one does billing.
Geez, that sounds tricky to manage.
It's clunky, but I need all this to run my business. Wait, you run your own business and you're even busier than I am. Don't you have all this stuff too?
I do, but I get it all on one screen with the Town Square Business Management Platform.
What's that?
The Town Square Business Management Platform is an all-in-one tool that helps me grow and run my business. It combines website, billing, and scheduling into one program.
That sounds simpler than juggling all the tools I have now, but you still need someone else to help you find new business, right?
Nope. They have powerful digital advertising built into the platform as well, which helps me keep my calendar full. You can get a demo of the product for free. Check out their website. See if it makes sense for your business.
Go to townsquarelocal.com for a free demo of the Town Square Business Management Platform. Visit townsquarelocal.com. That's townsquarelocal.com.
Are you annoyingly inattentive? Do you watch a movie and then ask a zillion questions because you weren't paying attention? Do people ask, how do you sleep at night? Then you should get a mattress from Mattress Firm. They can help anyone sleep. Head to Mattress Firm's July 4th sale and get a king bed for a queen price. Save up to $700 plus a free adjustable base with select Sealy mattresses. All with free and fast delivery. Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Hi, I'm Cesar Milan. People are always commenting on how happy and healthy my dogs are. One of the reasons is the food my dogs eat.
Dr. Marty's Nature's Blend is a premium freeze-dried raw dog food designed to support your dog's health, happiness, and lifespan.
Their joints are more flexible, their teeth are cleaner, and their coats shinier, and why they seem more youthful even as they age.
I'm veterinarian Dr. Marty Goldstein. I've helped countless dogs thrive with one simple concept. Your dog needs a high-meat diet similar to what their ancestors ate in the wild.
Dr. Marty created Nature's Blend using 50 years of nutritional research and experience, helping dogs make incredible turnarounds. Save up to 54% off Nature's Blend and get a free bag of Cod Krispies, their wild-caught, ultra-crunchy cod skin treats. Go to drmartypets.com/deal or text DEAL to 511-511.
Your order is backed with a 90-day guarantee.
All dogs are unique. Your dog results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back in to the Martin Houston Show. It's Martin and Xavier. We're live, local, ready to get things going. Hey, don't forget to go check out Billy's Cooking, Billy's Cooking LLC, one of our supporters. Today is Wing Wednesday. Go get those 50-cent wings over at Billy's Cooking restaurant located over in Holt, Alabama, just across from the old Holt High School. You can order it via DoorDash. That's Billy's Cooking LLC. Wasn't expecting as much interaction from the Heisman conversation, but I love it. That's why we call it the Sound Alabama Sports, your show, your team, where we get interactions and we work it into the conversation. Chuck Hunt saying Tim Brown won the Heisman Trophy in 1987 as a wide receiver / kick returner at Notre Dame. Do you notice anything about all of the specials? That's what made Devontae Smith Heisman X was purely what? Wide receiver numbers. I mean, he wasn't wide receiver and so that's what was impressive about his run. Of course, Mark Davis. What's up, Mark? Long. It means we're getting old, Mark. longtime friend Mark Davis. Trent Richardson should have won it as well. X. That's another one of those examples of where they have let me see how to say this. Alabama loses to Auburn. At that point, Trent is the leader, in my opinion, for the Heisman. The last weekend, and don't get me wrong, RG3 had a good season, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Trent should have won the Heisman. That's my opinion. I think if you flip the number of votes and it wasn't Alabama, Trent Richardson is hoisting the trophy. You got anything on that before I bring Phillip on?
Yeah, Trent could have won it. Tua could have won it. I think I think RG3 won it because of what the Big 12 did. They put their last game after they lost their conference championship game. They moved the last game of the season to line up with the conference championship game. So you got to see RG3 play after Alabama played in the SEC championship game that year.
Yeah.
But here's something that's a little crazy. I think if Jalen Waddle doesn't get hurt in 2020, him and Devontae's numbers are even, or Devontae's numbers drop, but Mac's numbers probably go up a little bit, and I think Mac is a Heisman Trophy winner.
Interesting. Hadn't thought about that. I was watching some film on Jalen Waddle the other day, and I forgot just how good that dude was. Huh?
Explosive.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know, maybe because you lose part of that season because of just how good Devontae was.
Right.
But wow.
Jalen was the leading receiver before he got hurt.
Yeah. Hey, let me tell you, the dog of all those receivers was still Devontae Smith.
Yes.
If you go back and look at the seasons, X, Devontae Smith, throughout his freshman, sophomore, and junior season, he had at least one game where he made the difference. And he was like the fifth guy on the rotation, starting with the national championship catch. But go back and look at who had the 200-yard games in their careers, and it's Devontae Smith. Even when you had Judy and Ruggs and all of those guys, Smitty was always a beast. He was just kind of like I said, he was the silent assassin. That dude was nasty, and he got rewarded for it. But anyway, Bobby Humphrey could have got. There's so many guys. And as of late, Alabama's put so much offensive firepower into the league. So many of those guys could have won it. And when somebody from the South wins it, you need to understand just how good they are. Because the majority of the votes reside, once again, up in the Big Ten country, out in the Pac-12 country, and then at Big 12, and then finally the South. There's just not a lot of votes. Wyatt, if you could help me find that would be an interesting stat. I don't know if they still publish that or not, but just where the votes are allocated. Let's get to Phillip. Phillip, you're in with Martin and Xavier on the Alabama One hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, Martin, I remember when I finished at Alabama back in the early 80s, my first job out of college was with a little small daily newspaper, and I remember how Alabama would, at the end of when they tried to do some sort of semi-promoting with Bobby Humphrey, they'd mail out a bunch of stuff to newspapers all over the state, and you'd get it like a week later. And and that's just the way it was back then, because technology didn't exist like it does now. But I just remember those days. But I tell you, there's another player that we had in Alabama that just never reached his potential. And he was just a huge talent, and that was Keith McCants.
Well, Keith also, I think he reached his potential at Alabama. I think we forget how good he was at Alabama because of how bad his pro career was. But he only played 2 years of college.
Yeah, we need a hat and one fit.
Do what now?
Hey, Martin. Hey, sorry, Martin. I got to go, but I just wanted to throw that in there.
All right. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it. All right. Go ahead, X.
Now, we've talked about defensive players that should have won it and everything. Derek Thomas. Derek Thomas has the greatest defensive season in an era that they did not throw the ball. From a statistical standpoint, nobody's interceptions equal 27 sacks, anything like that. If Derek Thomas couldn't win it as a pure defensive player, I don't know if there ever will be one.
I agree. I mean, let me see.
You got hyped off of one game.
No.
If you go look at Ndamukong Suh's, if you go look at what I'm saying, he was not anywhere close to the conversation until that Texas game where he was absolutely unreal. But if you go back to 2009, he was not in the conversation before that Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, but he should have been. I mean, everybody just got to watch him that day. I mean, that's my point. Is he should have been. Derek Thomas had 28 sacks.
27.
27.
Mm-hmm.
And he had 27 X in 11 games. They didn't count bowl game, and there was no SEC championship. I mean, there were no championship games. There were no playoffs, and those stats didn't count. Okay, so he got 27. Huh?
To the reason I said what I said about Ndamukong Suh, listen to his stats compared to Will Anderson's stats. He had 85. Now, yes, he was a defensive tackle.
Yeah,
but he had less tackles. He had 85 tackles, 20 tackles for a loss, and 12 sacks. Look at what Will's numbers were, and that's the reason I say that.
But
in one less game,
12 sacks by an interior lineman in that era is the equivalent of 20 plus sacks.
And they're throwing the ball a lot in 2009.
Huh? They weren't
if
doing
you said that about Derek's era, yeah.
No, they threw the ball. But they didn't throw the ball 15 years ago the way they do it now. Some teams did. Big 12 may have threw it as much as anybody. Back then, probably was throwing it more than anybody. But my point is, he was making everybody else better. They were doubling, tripling team him. I don't care about Ndamukong Suh. Derek Thomas, we need to try to think what hey, Wyatt, make a note of this. What statistic by any position will be the equivalent of 27 sacks in a season? You know what I mean? Like what would be the equivalent of 27 sacks for a running back or a quarterback or a receiver? That's something to think about, because you have to understand Derek Thomas would be top 10 in like career sacks. I don't know if that's true or not, but my point.
Bama?
No. I'm saying single season. If you were to take everybody else's the top
sack, that's what I'm saying. Like
no, not at Alabama.
I'm
talking about in the country. I don't even know what the top. I'm just being funny. I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah. My point is 27 sacks is 2.5 good seasons. I mean,
yeah,
and
the reason I say that one game against Texas, Suh had 12 tackles, 4.5 sacks, and 6 tackles for a loss. That one game got him in the Heisman conversation.
But that's what wins people Heisman's every year. Is one game. That's why. Do you agree with that? What do they say about winning a Heisman? their Heisman what? Moment. So, that was his Heisman moment. But when you go back and look at it, he was still over it. I hear what you're saying about Sue, but you can't change my mind that Sue isn't one of the most dominant college players ever. It's just
Won't disagree with that.
Right. So, all right, Chuck, we got to get you in and out really quick. Sorry about that. Chuck, you're in on the Alabama One hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning to you. Somebody talk about Damakong too. He was dominant during that time, and end up end up getting your first Heisman winner out of the University of Alabama, Mark Ingram, 2009 season. I know that part you all are happy about, but I remember Heisman going back to Mike Rozier in Nebraska, and then I remember Doug Flutie won it. But I thought about that 1990 season when Ty Detmer won out of Brigham Young University. He won that day and ended up losing Hawaii. What happened that year in '90? I really thought that Rocket Ismail was the person that was deserving of that Heisman. They had him, and you had Sean Moore, who was quarterback at the University of Virginia. I felt that it was Rocket Ismail, but I ended up giving it to Ty Detmer. But man, after he won that Heisman, he lost the Hawaii game, and then he lost the Holiday Bowl to Texas A&M, beaten badly.
Yeah, and I think they need to wait and vote on the Heisman at the end of the season after all the games have been played. That's my opinion. I don't like when they vote for it because, there's for some guys, they still have 2-3 games left to play. And it's all part of the season.
That's true.
And if you didn't take your team to that level, then that hurts you, because it hurts the guys. And I have to go after this, Chuck. It hurts the guys, X, if you don't make it to your championship game and you're competing against a guy that plays in a championship game. So it should hurt you if you don't go on into the playoffs. But they cut it off after that, and that's why I don't like it. And a lot of these guys, it's not as bad as it used to be. A lot of guys would vote before the season was even over. So thanks, Chuck.
Do you think?
All right. Take care. Okay.
Do you think the reason why it is still set where it's set is because for the up until 20-ish years ago, you didn't count bowl game stats. It was a regular season award. It's the same as the regular season MVP award in the NFL. That's what the Heisman Trophy was until, and that was because no stats counted after the last regular season game or after that, the conference championship game. And so that's the timeline that is set. So you're saying, should they either move it back to just being regular season and they keep it as a regular season, or should they push it back and not count the bowl game stats?
They should do one or the other. They shouldn't. I'm not worried about them counting the stats when it comes to the Heisman. If they're gonna count the SEC championship game, then why not count the playoffs? Because all the contenders aren't in their acts for the championship game. So you're giving them an extra opportunity if their team is a championship team. That's my point. We can talk about that even more tomorrow. Didn't get to anything else, but that's okay. Our listeners wanted to talk about the Heisman. We talked about it. We'll be back on the other side. We'll add Scotty Hollins into the conversation for the Harvest Church Christian Moment of the Week.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. All of our drive times are in good shape this morning. Traveling along Highway 69 from Mid-Larry Road down to McFarland, that's just 6 minutes. And then south of that, expect another 3 minutes from McFarland to 15th Street along Lurling Wallace. No big accidents or breakdowns dotting the board. You're moving nicely into and out of the T-Town region this morning. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Wednesday morning. For $50 a day, the Pickens County Sheriff's Office has agreed to house up to 20 prisoners from the Tuscaloosa County Jail. As we first told you yesterday, significant overcrowding is the problem there. The jail is currently undergoing a complete rebuild, and prisoners are being housed in a temporary facility. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
This report is sponsored by Tire Rack. Nearly 3,000 teen drivers die in car crashes each year. Tire Rack Street Survival is designed to save lives. The one-day hands-on driving school gives teens experience in car control through exercises that include emergency braking and skid recovery. Find a class near you at TireRack.com/survive.
Getting her to say yes is just the first hurdle. If you want to marry her, you better get a yes from the whole family. But don't freak out, friend. Fincher and Osment knows what to do. Just think of all the happy couples brought together by us in the past 120 years. We're pretty good at it. So when you want something that takes her breath away and tells her family you're not messing around, Fincher and Osment to the rescue.
I'm Tom Osment, your jeweler at Fincher and Osment Jewelers. Not so easy to find on McFarland, between Edgar's and local routes.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Diego.
Hi, Diego. It's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to say your cashback match makes me feel so special. It really inspired me.
That's great. Doubling the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year is what we do.
Well, I'm doubling everything now. Double dating, double dipping, double feature, double header, double whammy. Basically double or nothing.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Go inside the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Gary Harris Show.
Hey, it's Gary Harris coming up Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. on the Gary Harris Show. Matt Coulter on NASCAR. It's been a wild NASCAR season. We'll continue to break it down. Plus, all this Alabama recruiting buzz, is it going to result in some more commitments this week? We'll have the latest, plus your phone calls. That's all coming up 9 a.m. on the Gary Harris Show Wednesday morning.
Catch the Gary Harris Show Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. It's now time for the Harvest Church Christian Moment of the Week. We have Scotty Hollins, Executive Director, Blueprint Ministries, joining the conversation. Scotty, we tossed it over to you to encourage us on how we can incorporate our faith into the boardroom, the classroom, our chosen field of play. We're talking about a friend who loves like Jesus.
Thank you, Martin, for that. You tossed it up. I'm going to try to see if I can hit it, and then again, I'll pass it on to you so you can take us on home, right? Like we always do. So, man, I want to continue that series, a friend who loves like this. And, the story we looked at last week, actually, so one phrase, like the verse that we've used to kind of illustrate this is John 15:13, where Jesus, where it says, greater love has no one than this, that you lay down your life for your friend. To sum it up, Jesus did what was best for us. We needed a Savior. And in order for us to have a Savior, we had to have someone who lived a perfect life and died on the cross for our sins. That's what he did. He did what was best for us. No matter what it cost him his life. So when we talk about a friend who loves like Jesus, we're talking about a friend who does what's best for you, no matter what it costs. And really, quite honestly, we're challenging ourselves. So it's you doing what's best for the people you love, no matter what it costs you. And so we looked at a different example, Martin, didn't we, last week, when we looked at Peter being challenged by Paul. And so Paul, I think, was a friend who loved like Jesus, who did what was best for Peter, even though it could have cost Paul something. So Paul catches Peter kind of, misrepresenting the gospel, misrepresenting Christ, kind of in an intentional way. And so what we see is Paul actually confronts Peter. And is that a curse word, Martin? Confront? Yeah, I'll tell you, like, I'll tell you, be honest, it's tough for me. It's tough for me. But I'll tell you one thing that helps me with this. If we can look at this example of Paul confronting Peter, Paul loved Peter. Paul knew that what Peter was doing wasn't good for Peter. Paul also knew that what Peter was doing wasn't good for the body of Christ or for those who didn't know Christ. You follow me? Mm-hmm. And so Paul, out of his love for Peter, and really, back up, Paul, out of his love for the Lord, and therefore his love for Peter, was willing to confront Peter in a way that I believe helped Peter finish strong, because Peter did finish strong. And so here's the thing: when we know someone who we care about, we love, we find them on the wrong track for whatever reason. We know it for sure. They're doing something that is detrimental to themselves or detrimental to those around them. You know what I mean? Like, if they follow this path, it's gonna hurt them. Then the question is, do we love them enough to say something? Because if we say something, Martin, they may not receive it. They may be upset with us. They may look at us funny, or they may attack us, or they may completely cut us off. But the point is, do we love people enough to say what needs to be said obviously in the most loving of ways, in the most gentle and caring, but at the same time to say, look, like Paul did to Peter, hey, we can't keep doing this. And so anyway, I'll stop there. I think for me, it's very difficult to do the whole conversation thing. But what helps me is just saying, if I truly love this person, how can I not say this? How can I not tell them? And if this is a blind spot, if it's something that they need to see, if it's something they need to hear, then if I don't tell them, then who will? What you got, Martin?
Yeah, and that's the key. When you look at confrontation, it does sound like a bad word or an aggressive word. Man, they confronted him. They confronted her.
Mm-hmm.
They were confrontational. But it's all about the purpose of it. If I'm confronting you to humiliate you or to hurt you or to embarrass you, then confrontation is wrong. But if I'm doing it and I do it with the right spirit, the right heart, in the right way, with the right motive, and that is to help you become better, what parent would see their child doing something wrong and then let them keep doing it wrong and then come try to convince you and I that they love their child?
Right.
If we know that it's true. And a lot of times confrontation for me comes out of I've experienced something or know something that the person who's going through it may not know. And so I bring them information to help them make a better decision. And so, but when you do it in love. That's the key.
That's right.
Tell them where they can find you. The key word, love like Jesus, right? Love like this.
That's it. That's what we're talking about.
Confront and love. Hey, that's Scotty Hollins. Tell them real quick where they can find you, Scotty.
Absolutely. www.blueprinttuscaloosa.com. You can send me a message there. It comes straight to my email.
All right. Hey, we'll be back on the other side. Remember, we have the Martin Houston Show OT overtime, where we'll keep it rolling. We'll be back on the other side. So if you're listening on the radio airwaves, jump over to Alabama Sports and the Martin Houston Show to keep the conversation rolling right here on the Martin Houston Show.
It's a celebration.
And hey, if you're out there and you're signing off, remember this: trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
I'm attorney Stephen Mizrano. Did you know that insurance companies will only offer you pennies on the dollar for your injury? When you're in a wreck...
All right. Good morning. Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show OT overtime right here on your home for Alabama sports. It is the Martin Houston Show, Alabama sports, and the Martin Houston Show on Facebook. Go like it, follow it, share it, tell your family and friends about it. had an interesting show today. I mean, I came in with the intentions of talking a lot more about several other things, but it ended up going down the pathway of the Heisman Trophy, and we had some great interaction there. And so that's what I love about our show. And I want those of you who are still on the airwaves to know that I'll always prepare topics. I always have things to talk about. I always prep for the show. But this show really is about you. I don't want to get on here. I already know the stuff that I know. I want to talk to you about what's on your mind. I want to talk to you about things around the water cooler. I want us to interact and engage as if we're sitting across the table from each other. And everybody that's listening on the airwaves, they're just listening to us sit around and talk. I do want to ask you guys as a team as followers and listeners, something I'm praying about doing and working with a couple of guys on, and it would be both a video live stream podcast version as well as traveling potentially not potentially, but also a live version of it as well when the doors open. But I'm looking at doing something around football, faith, and fatherhood. Of course, family is incorporated into that. So something around football, faith, and the gridiron, that type of thing. So be praying for me as I seek to figure out how to do that and how to bring the marrying of those things. That's kind of my stick. I have a tattoo on my right arm that says faith, family, and football. And that's those three things are my biggest passions. I do other things, but so just pray about it. And if you think that's a good idea, hit me up in the chat and let me know that, hey, Martin, I would love to watch. And the whole purpose of it would be to share my faith or share our faith if it's multiple of us, but then talk football and then allow for questions and talk to us as men and how we can grow and become stronger leaders in our country. I think that's where we need to go as a nation. So if you think that's a good idea, you'd like to be a part of that, participate in it, hit me up and let me know. Also, like I said, be praying for myself and a couple other guys I'm talking to that we're talking about it. So it may be some version of it coming soon. Flipping back over, speaking of football, faith, and fatherhood, back to a football conversation. I had a couple things that I want to talk about today that I didn't get to. So I'll pick one of those topics today. And that is the fill in the blank. And we'll talk a little bit more. I get X and Wyatt's thoughts on it tomorrow since I did not allow them to talk about it today. But I'm watching this football team and just thinking, how good can this team be? And I started thinking about the quarterback position yesterday and started thinking through what makes a great quarterback. What are those traits that make great quarterbacks? And as I thought about the question of Milroe and what will he be, I've watched a young man, grow up. We watched him grow up before our very eyes. And so there's a whole list of traits that make great quarterbacks. I'd love to know what your top ones are. I'll talk through a couple of them this morning. And as I talk through them, you can agree or disagree. Let me hear from you at Alabama Sports and the Martin Houston Show. Post your thoughts and comments there. But, if you go back, it used to be all about smarts, right? Everyone used to talk about, the intelligence of the quarterback. And I don't think that's necessarily changed, right? I still think a quarterback has to be intelligent, but that that used to be, and don't let this offend you when I say this, but that used to be used so much against black athletes. And it was never said the black guy. What people would say was that, that this guy has high IQ, and then they would say this guy's really athletic. And if a if a white guy was playing quarterback and he was really athletic, they would go, he's sneaky athletic. And if a black guy, was playing quarterback and he wasn't the great athlete and he was more of a Warren Moon type, then he was really cerebral for a quarterback. The reality of it is both of those are traits that quarterbacks need to have and need to have in abundance. You don't want a dummy playing quarterback, okay? You want a guy that you can put more things in the offense. You want a guy who can handle a lot of things. You don't want a guy out there, you can have two computers and both of them have similar storage, but one processes information a lot faster than the other one. So that's part of that. So you want a guy who can take the information, process the information, and then execute on the information. So the intellectual piece is still a high, extremely high portion of the game. And then I would say next up, and I'm not putting these in order. We can go back and list them in order if we need to. And then I'm going to tie them back into Jalen Milroe. I'm not going through all of the characteristics this morning. I'm just going to go through a couple of them. But high IQ, ability to process, ability to garner information, process it, and put it back on the field, huge. Okay? But then people talk about, the legs, and the arm. And I'm going to put those two kind of together, arms and legs. It used to be strictly, oh, man, he has a big arm. 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 Well, describe big arm. Sometimes people say it's about arm talent, and I said that wrong. It's about arm talent. Some people say that arm talent, when you talk about arm talent, they're just talking about a guy who can throw it a long way. He can, do this. But arm talent isn't just the ability to have a strong arm. Any of y'all remember Danny Werfel? To me, Danny Werfel had one of the, when you looked at it, it wouldn't look like the ball was going to get there, but it would always get to its target. And he didn't have, to me, he'd never had it like an overpowering arm, but he had tremendous arm talent. And so the part of the arm talent is strength and ability to squeeze it into tight spots and things like that. But if you circle back to my first thought process of intellectual ability to process, etc., if a guy can process faster and know what's coming, read defenses, understand defenses, know where his guy's going to be, know what your reaction is when the guy makes a certain cut, then he can always beat you even if his arm isn't as strong because he anticipates and he throws it out there and he leads those guys and he puts it in a place where you cannot stop it. So part of arm talent is strength, and part of arm talent is the ability to put the ball in the right place. Accuracy is huge. Okay, so you take intellectual ability, strong arm or accurate arm or both, and now the part that absolutely is changing the game of football is the leg component. The leg component, the ability to run the ball, or listen to this, simply the threat of running the ball. Simply the threat of running the ball. You don't have to run your quarterback all the time just because he has the ability to run. But you also don't need to be afraid to run the quarterback because it changes the numbers. It gives you an extra blocker. If you run the ball all the time and your quarterback isn't a threat, then the defense has 11 on 10. Or when you're running a running back, technically it's 11 guys that need to be blocked, and you only have 9 guys to block them. Defense always has one more guy that the person with the ball has to beat, and they're going to be unblocked. So that gives you an advantage, but you have to incorporate it into your game. And I say all of that to circle back to last year. Let's circle back to last year. Alabama had a quarterback. Do any of us really believe that Ty Simpson, and I forget the other guy's name. What was that? The other dude that left and went back to Notre Dame. And now he's playing wide receiver at Notre Dame, by the way. Do we really think that those guys were ready last year to compete against Alabama? Against Jalen Milroe. Once you saw what was on the field, do you think there was really a competition? Or was Saban and his staff managing the transfer portal? Were they managing the transfer portal? Did they know that, man, the only guy that really, can help us after seeing Buckner? Did they know that Buckner really was not ready, but Tommy Rees wanted him to be? Obviously, by starting him, Ty Simpson was clearly better than Ty Buckner, just like Jalen Milroe was clearly better than Ty Simpson. Now, was that just strictly because of Jalen Milroe? Let's grade these guys on intellectual. Was there anything that you saw in Milroe's game or Ty Simpson's game that makes you think that Ty Simpson was equal to, better than, or superior to Jalen Milroe? There's nothing you can look at. You all understand that Jalen Milroe graduated in 3 years and some change. Just for any of you who think that Milroe may not be smart enough to do any of this, just go ahead and throwing that out there. All right? So there's no distinct advantage that any of us can point to from what we've seen from that intellectual piece. What about arm talent? Can you see anything there? Let's say they're equal there. Maybe Ty, not maybe, I believe Ty is a more accurate quarterback. I believe Jalen has a stronger arm, so that washes out. So now it brings it to the legs. If everything else is equal, Milroe runs away with it when you put the leg component into the scenario. But the problem was Saban and Tommy Rees hurt all of our quarterbacks last year because they did not give them the vote of confidence. They never would name a guy. I told someone yesterday, if Ty Simpson had been named the starter in spring, he would have been ready to play quarterback at Alabama last year. But he needed all of those reps in the spring as a starter. He needed all those reps in the summer as a starter. He needed the reps in fall camp as the starter. If he had gotten that as the starter, Ty Simpson could have led last year's Alabama team, in my opinion. Buckner, I don't think so. But Ty Simpson could have. I believe Ty Simpson is a really good quarterback. The other side of that is how much better would Jalen Milroe would have been last year. Look at Jalen Milroe's game after he was named the starter. Can anyone tell me that Jalen Milroe did not grow leaps and bounds once he started getting all the first team reps from after that South Florida debacle moving forward? The kid got better and better and better. The problem was his offensive coordinator and the philosophy and identity of the football team didn't get better and better and better and more consistent. They were up and down, sporadic, and all of that. And so just think about if you have a guy who has arm talent, has leg talent, who can throw the ball deep, working in Milroe, it became his deep ball was the most accurate ball in college football, in my opinion. One of the prettiest balls out there. Sorry about that. And then he was getting better and better at the short game. And he's improved that this offseason. If you look at that, Alabama robbed you and Milroe of what he could have been last year, all year, just based on repetition. Well, I would give it to this coaching staff. They had a competition, but it was always clear who the guy was. In other words, we had a competition every offseason at fullback, but I was competing against Kevin Turner, but it was clear who the starter was. But I didn't feel like I wasn't in a competition, and that's what they created this year. And as a result of that, both guys, I think, got better and better and better. Tomorrow or Friday, I want to talk about one other thing that I have watched this offseason. I've watched Jalen Milroe take to the next level. And it's that thing that you can't measure fully, but you can see it happen on the field. It's that thing that a guy like Michael Jordan had, that leadership that takes everybody else to the next level. That Kobe Bryant thing. I've seen Milroe developing leadership off the field this year in every aspect. And I believe that that's going to be the next quality that maybe gets Alabama to a national title and him to a championship. So we're going to talk more about Jalen Milroe and what he can do this year. You may have some other qualities, and there are, and we may look at those qualities, but leadership. Have you been impressed with the leadership that Jalen Milroe has been displaying this offseason in his engagement? Because if you add better offensive coordinator, better offensive scheme, better players around him, and him get better at the four things I mentioned, and then he takes his leadership to the next level, I think the sky's the limit to this Alabama team. As we get ready to wrap up, Curtis Moore II said, I wonder why Saban would allow Reese to start Buckner over Milroe in week 3. I will always think that Buckner that Buckner move on weeks was a Reese-driven thing. It has to be. I don't understand it either. I don't see how anybody understands it. And maybe Saban, some people say he's, smart as a fox or slick as a fox, whatever that saying is. Some people said he did it to shut up everybody else, to show them that there was one quarterback that was worthy of playing. Fortunately, it didn't backfire on us. Roderick Huggins saying, we're blessed Milroe didn't transfer after the way he was treated early in the season. Testament to that young man and his family. Roger, you preaching now. He is the only quarterback I have ever heard Nick Saban come out and publicly dog is Milroe. And he did it several times. And fortunately, maybe he knew that Milroe's parents were both mom and dad are Marines and they're tough and that they were going to push him back. And he fought through it. And he's getting the reward of not quitting. That's somebody that we ought to be out there talking about to these young people of, maybe it's something about the name Jalen, because Jalen Hurts went through the same thing where I don't know that I wouldn't have transferred, but neither one of those Jalen's did, and it paid dividends in SEC championships, not national championships that year, but SEC championships for Alabama in both occasions. And last but not least, Curtis Moore II saying, Roderick Huggins, yep, I always will say we're lucky we didn't lose Milroe or Jayton Roberts. Yeah, Jayton Roberts, I think, was the fourth guy that we tried at guard. I'm thinking either this guy must really be dominant when the lights come on or somebody wasn't paying attention at Alabama. As we get ready to get out of here, I want to thank you for staying on with me with the Martin Houston Show Overtime. Once again, I want to encourage you, join Alabama Sports in the Martin Houston Show. I know a lot of you guys are and gals are tuned in on the X and on YouTube, but I do more things over on the Facebook page, post more there. So go follow. You can't like, you have to follow. You can't like, but follow it so that it will pop up in your feed when we go live on our regular show, as well as future shows, special events, etc. We'll have some of those as we move closer into the football season. As we go off the air, I want to encourage you to go to Amazon.com, type in "Give Me One More Inch," and add this tool to your toolbox. It's the Encouragement Factor. It's a book that highlights one of the 5 essentials to empowerment. 5 essentials to empowerment is engage, encourage, educate, equip, and empower. This one focuses on essential number 2, the encouragement factor. Give me one more inch. And it's just about that we all live with a little reserve. And we need people in our lives, an individual in our lives, to encourage us to give one more inch. We all have it in us, but we need somebody to help get it out of us. And maybe you need to be that person for someone else. So this book is a tool that will help you do just that. We'll be back on the other side. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 a.m. right here on Alabama Sports and the Martin Houston Show on Facebook. We appreciate you. Roll Tide out there, everybody. And remember this, trust in the Lord always. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Roll Tide.